Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome back to Rhinestone Island, and this is the rally track episode. This is the one that I've been looking forward to for quite some time now. We'll be tackling pretty much the entirety of this rally track, or at the very least the main event and the starting gate, and then quite a bit of the track itself, and basically just plotting out where the track will go from there. Now, I did decide from last episode that I did want to make this a bit more of an event than just a simple rally track. So we're gonna have like a whole event going on and sort of try and recreate that in this small town as best as possible. So you'll see quite a bit of that going on here, and probably more focus on the actual event than the course itself. But starting out here, you can see that we have a pretty simple start. Now, as I mentioned in the last episode, it seems like these rally events are typically held in locations that are just like regular. They're not going to pave roads or build tracks for this usually. I guess it depends on the event and what you're doing, but it seemed to me that a lot of these events just happen in existing roads, and that's that. So I decided to have it start in this little town over here, a pretty good start place I think, on some asphalt, but then pretty much from there it goes straight down into dirt. Because again, the dirt road starts at the end of this road over here, and then the rest of the track is pretty much all entirely on dirt road. So for this area over here, this is like probably some of the more like complex, I guess, track layout. When I say complex track layout, meaning just that it's got like all this like barricade stuff. We're not gonna have this stuff nearly as prevalent anywhere else. It's going to be primarily just rally tape after this, but right at the beginning here, we do have like a double barricade. So we've got the the advertising and sort of like the area that marks off the track, and then like a few feet out from it, we get the barricades to hold the crowd back. So you don't have the crowd like hanging over the railing at the start gate right up in front there. And then we have of course the rally gate starting point right there. And then I started to fill out these areas with these like props of people that I found. And I think I wanted to mention this earlier on, but there's quite a few assets that I'm going to use in this episode that I really don't think have nearly as much popularity as I think they should have. So if you're looking to make any sort of event, but in particular a rally event, you should definitely check out some of the assets that I added to my collection recently. So if you go to the description, click on my collection, you can see some of these assets that have like very, very small download numbers, like tiny download numbers, considering how awesome they are. One of those being just those like people props. I think those are just like part of a vanilla props collection with like a couple of hundred downloads maybe. And then on top of that food truck is super cool as well. And that thing has like, again, like maybe like a couple hundred downloads or something. And then this whole rally kit that I've been using, so that like rally gate there, the actual the barricades and everything, those like advertising barricades and the rally tape and the rally cars, all that stuff, they all come in like a kit, and I really haven't seen them being used like hardly at all. And they're pretty, I don't think they're super new on the workshop, but they really just don't get the attention that they deserve. So if you're looking to make anything like this, definitely check those out. They are super awesome. But anyway, to start this thing off, I wanted to make a little event area that is sort of catering more towards the people that are actually at the rally event, or at the starting gate, I guess. So again, it's not going to be just like some random concrete slab in the middle of nowhere that's just there year-round for this particular reason, right? So it'd probably be in like a parking lot or something. So I'm making some parking around here that I would imagine would just be like a parking lot normally, and is being sort of overtaken as the location of this event. And then this area over here, I think, is supposed to be more like an entrance to like a campgrounds or a park location that's been transformed into a campgrounds for this rally camp. So that's what that's all about. But I wanted to use that food truck. I wanted to have some ambulances, just like kind of the general stuff you would see right at the start gate of a rally event. So we've got that. We've got some ambulances, and then also some tents and places where you could sit down and have some food or something like that. And now I don't really have, I should say like a little disclaimer here, I really don't have a ton of experience with like rally event. I've never been to a rally event before. I've never experienced it in real life before. I've done a little bit of research, but not a whole lot. So just keep that in mind, I guess. But all things considered, I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. I think it was a pretty fun little thing to try and build. I try to do a bit of research here and there just to kind of get an idea of what I should be doing and what's common at these kind of events. So I like to think that it's a pretty plausible thing, and that everything that I built here was pretty on par with what you would see in an actual event. But anyway, just kind of laying down some decals here and planning out exactly how we're gonna get this entry point sorted out, because it's kind of weird right now. It's a pretty tight space, so I wanted to have room for all of our competitors to drive out and line up outside of the gate while also not blocking anything off. So we'll get that in, and we also need to have plenty of room for people to actually enter the campsite without blocking off the competitors that are trying to leave the site to get to the entry gate right there. So you'll see that in a minute, but just sort of finishing off this little area out here. I wanted to have that big tent there with some grills going and some seats and things going on, and laying some trash out. I feel like it's probably pretty messy when you get these big events going on. Lots of trash laying around by the trash cans and the dumpsters and stuff. And then we got a police officer and a barricaded off road over here on this side, which I think kind of makes sense. And then some more people props, obviously. This is going to be the name of the game for this whole event. There's going to be quite a few people, pretty much all over the place, especially in the actual site where we have all of the cars and the camping and all that stuff going on. But this is when this vanilla props collection really came into play, and I really think it adds quite a bit to these areas. Like, it makes the whole town and the whole event feel much more lively when you have like people all kind of accumulated around here, instead of it just being like an empty event as it would be if I didn't do that. So pretty happy with that, honestly. I think it turned out pretty cool. I think over here we're gonna start planning out how this entry is gonna work. So I'll put some porta potties down. I think just gonna copy those over and plop them over here. We're gonna have little collections of porta potties here and there as we go, just to I guess accommodate all of the people at this event here. But I think once I plop down some more of these people sort of just around in the walking space, and I did leave some room in that entryway for the people to walk in and out between those barricades and the fence, so they're not walking right in the middle of the street or something, which would probably not be super ideal. So we got that going on. But I think now here we go. We'll start getting into the lineup for all the cars. So let's see, am I gonna find those rally cars? I think they're back at the beginning here. There we go. So I'm thinking we have the rally cars like out on this far side, and I'll use some cones to kind of block that off. So they'd all line up right here, and they go out one by one and go to their gate, and then leave when they're waved off, I guess. And then from there, I wanted to have a few cones and some rally tape, sort of giving them their own lane there to get in. And then from there, we have like a pretty narrow, just like 2-lane entry point for cars to actually drive in and get to the campsites. Because again, this is the entrance to the entire like rally camp, so it needed to be pretty wide. It needed to have plenty of room for not only our rally drivers, but also anybody who's going to attend the event as well. Now, before I jump into the actual rally camp itself, I wanted to just get some of this like neighborhood layout stuff done. I wanted to have a few more homes back up here, and I didn't really get a chance to do that. So that's what this is all about. Just gonna plop down some roads. That way I don't go and overextend the rally camp and block any potential housing off. So that's what this is all about. And again, this is a pretty small neighborhood. We've got like lots of dirt roads, and it connects to the dirt roads that go up into the mountains. So lots of like mountain homes with quite a bit more space for them and all that stuff. But anyway, getting into the actual rally event itself. So I sort of laid out the dirt here in like a circular shape. Now, what I'm gonna do with this is I want to have like a sort of center area that's gonna be, it's gonna have some trees and some rocks and stuff and some natural components, and then I want to have lots of campsites. So you can see we've got like maybe 3 or 4 in the middle here, and then maybe 2 more on the outside over there, just to get the camping stuff out of the way first. And then once I had an idea of like how much camping and campsites I wanted to have around this area, then I started putting down some of these bigger tents, which I think sort of work as the actual big event tents. So maybe like some shops would be surrounding these tents, and we'd have lots of people accumulating around the tents, maybe like a marketplace or something in the future, all that good stuff. So that's where that comes into play. Now you can see I'm using some of these food trucks over here, sort of making, I'm just trying to get the yellow and white ones here, and I some reason couldn't get them spawned, but like I was saying, I imagine this area to be sort of like a commercial area, so lots of food trucks and people sort of accumulating, and like the main kind of fun area in this whole camp, because the rest of it would be like lots of cars parked and lots of campsites and stuff, but I think everyone would kind of gather around the food trucks and all that stuff over there. So that's what that's there for. Now, I'm going to put down a few more, I think, tents here and there. I didn't want to block off any areas where we were going to have any cars driving in, obviously. So I'm going to try and not block those too much so the cars can get in and out there. You can see I'm just having them park sort of like on the outskirts of this big dirt ring. And I know it looks a bit odd right now, so keep in mind it will be changing quite a bit. But it's kind of hard to get such a large thing built out, in like a rough form, and like, keep picturing the end product and not focusing on what it looks like right now. But I did have an end product in mind, and that's why I'm just like laying out lots of things without putting any details quite yet. But we'll get to that. So anyway, some porta potties, obviously, like always with these types of events. Quite a big one over, like a big string of them over there on that side. I think I actually delete these lights here in a minute. At first I thought it was like a good idea, and I was like, you wouldn't really have any like big utility pole lights sitting around a campsite like this. It's pretty much just like dirt and trees and just like places where you could then bring tents in, but you're not gonna have any like man-made structures out here in this little campsite facility. So I try to take some inspiration from some like real life events, and I just noticed that people would just straight up like park all along the sides of these fences that are sort of fencing in the campsite. Like it literally, there's just cars in every single free space. Like there's not enough parking, so there's cars all over the sides of the roads, and I kind of wanted to mimic that a little bit here. So that's what you're seeing right now. And then I use these barricades, these like temporary barricades, to kind of block off areas that I would imagine they wouldn't want people to go and park or drive into. That's kind of off the property or whatever, but for some reason those barricades have like these weird ruined textures that appear below them, so I have to go in and delete them with the surface painter tool afterwards, but whatever. I think I just skipped the rest of that. It was pretty uninteresting. Now, getting into these little campsites, I wanted to have some like logs sitting around so you could all sit around by the fire. We're going to have some rocks and things kind of plopped all about that area, and then also making some of these campfires out of these rocks like we always do. And then going to go ahead and plop down some of these little fire assets. So we got some nice campfires now around the area, which is pretty cool. We're almost getting to the point now where we're going to start doing here we go, some foliage and some more details. I tried to hold off as long as possible on the foliage, mostly because I knew that once I started putting these trees down, we'd have a hard time seeing all of the area. But I also didn't want to go super overkill with the trees. Like I know it's going to be a pretty forested area in general. Like this whole area is supposed to be pretty densely populated with foliage, just because it's like right in the middle of the mountains. But that being said, I didn't want to just like cover up all of our detailing with trees. So I tried to be pretty sparing in the way that I placed these trees to make them, few and far between and still look natural, which hopefully I did achieve. I don't really know if that's what happened or not, but I'm hoping so. But I started with the trees like I always do, the larger stuff, and then move into the smaller foliage pieces here and there, smaller trees, and then also trying to cover up these areas that are outside of the rally event, like the neighborhoods and whatnot, because those need some trees as well. We got some bushes and things going on in these areas, and some of these are less natural looking, so I use like those rose bushes for the planters. They look a bit more tamed and groomed, I guess, so I try to use those over there. Now, I hadn't really touched this whole area quite yet after last episode, so I did go in and put some more neighborhoods over here and zone some more, just a little bit, not by much. And then the main purpose of this was actually just to kind of figure out where all of these pathways were going to go, because I didn't really have a plan for that quite yet, but I knew that I wanted to have lots of pathways wandering around this area over here. So that's what this is all about. just a couple pathways that kind of follow this river over here, and we'll eventually cross the river, actually, I think, over on this side by the little bridge we have going on. But just some little meandering paths here and there. But I think that the combination of the narrower paths and the super wide stuff going on with the surface painter tool with the big dirt ring, and then some dirt roads that are sort of like a medium width, I think that using different variations in width with these dirt paths definitely kind of gives some personality to the whole area. It looks kind of nice with, you know, varying levels of dirt in different areas. So that's the idea behind this, just like some rough little path connections here and there. You could walk over to these little campsites from the neighborhoods via these little dirt roads as well, which is kind of nice. But I think we are finally getting into the detailing phase of this area over here. So this is when we're going to start doing, I think, you know, I can't remember if we're going to do the props, the people props quite yet. That's going to be pretty much one of the last things that I want to tackle, I think, with this area, just because it is kind of tedious, you know, lots of people to plop down. But I did want to get all of these foliage pieces in and start to kind of fill out these areas and really make that centerpiece look nice as well. I just thought that it'd be nice to have some good looking foliage right in the middle there, so the campsites look nice and enjoyable. And then we'll, you know, move in with the prop decals like always. These fallen leaves are super nice for that. Also, I think that these little scattered cobble and rock things kind of help shape up the area a little bit. And then you know, put some park benches down here and there. I kind of imagine that this is supposed to be like you know, regularly a campsite, so I'm trying to, you know, still have some park benches and stuff on the outside and everything, but also having it, you know, then be catered towards more of like a rally event. So that's where all the tents and things come in, obviously. Now I did want to get some interesting things around here, like some utility poles that I think would probably be run out to these neighborhoods that are sort of further out anyway. So plopping those down there, getting some more of these decals in, some more of this like wild grass and stuff around this area over here. Lots of bush variety when possible. And then I think, okay, here we go. So finally, yeah, like I said, we're not going to touch on the people props till later on. I think that will be one of the last things we do, just because it's incredibly tedious, and I'm pretty sure I'll cut out like almost all of it anyway. But for this area over here, I wanted to shape up this river a bit and make it feel a bit more like a normal natural river. So a lot of these like inner river areas, river banks, I guess, will be sort of low and like right up next to the river, where the river has kind of meandered and created like longer winding things and left the insides sort of narrower. Now the thing with these rocks is they have hitboxes that actually collide with the water, which is super weird. So I really couldn't use them in the water. I think I use them a little bit up here where we have this like nice riverbank, but not a whole lot outside of that, just because of their weird hitboxes. So yeah, that's the story on that. But I did want this little inner riverbank area to look kind of nice, so that's where all these rocks are coming from, and we're doing some of this like broken up bent stuff again. And I'm gonna have like a little pathway you can follow that wanders down there. And I also wanted to have a park up here, so you'll see in a minute we're gonna go back to that little centerpiece there and have some like groomed grass and some park benches and all that stuff, just to add some green space to this neighborhood a little bit, because it does have plenty of green space, but a lot of it's like forest and not areas that would be good for parks. So I think that this particular area would be pretty nice for that. But I also wanted to just start on a lot of the trees around this river. Now I'm gonna focus a lot more on the natural like foliage and natural aspect of this whole valley next episode, when we do the waterfall and just kind of work on that whole like valley moving up towards the lake. But for now, I just want to get like the trees down and just have an idea of where these foliage clusters would go. And then also I'm gonna probably shape up this mountain just a little bit here, because it was looking a bit unfinished. And if we're gonna do some foliage over here, I definitely wanted to have at the very least a finally shaped mountain that is sort of finalized in its look. So we'll do a bit of that over here along this riverbed and in the backside, I think of it too. I don't know how far up the mountain I actually ended up going. I think that's pretty much it for now for the mountain. You know, I think I'm going to shape up this upper area as well, just near these the highway and everything, because that was pretty unfinished. But This is the goal of this episode as well, is that I wanted to continue to sort of finalize the look of the mountains and things as we, like I said, continue to detail everything. So it's all a continuous process. You don't want to be finalizing these details before you have everything built out around it. So as you start to build out things and get ideas of where things are going to be placed, and you think that the terrain is getting closer to being finalized, then you can start doing those details and sort of shaping the mountain and stuff. And that's kind of a good process, I think, to go through whenever you're making these mountains and valleys and things. But lots of wild grass and nice foliage around here. I wanted to make it look like this path was kind of like beaten up and had been maintained for a long time. But you can kind of wander down here, and there's some little park benches next to the river, so you could enjoy yourself down there. It just seemed kind of like a nice little area. Now for this area, okay, so I did want to turn this little center thing into a park, and what better way to do it than use these super awesome decals, these like big groomed grass decals. So I use those. I use some fences to kind of fence the area off, and I'm gonna probably plop down some wild grass here and there just to kind of blend the mowed grass with the non-mowed grass. We got some picnic tables. We're probably gonna have some, like I said, some park benches and stuff, and all the things you'd expect in a nice simple little park in the middle of a neighborhood like this. We got a little bit of wild grass, but I didn't want to do it too crazy because, again, I want to make it feel like this whole park is nice and groomed. So just like some bushes along the sides and things. And we got some park lamps as well and stuff. So kind of a nice place to be, not going to be dark at nighttime. We got plenty of lights and things around and trash bins and all that stuff. So all in all, kind of a nice park, actually. I was really happy with the result of this. I think it was a kind of nice little area and would really raise the value of land around in this area. I kind of wish that would actually happen. I mean, I think I'm going to plop down actually some people park generators over here, but they need to be like near roads, and they're kind of a pain to use. I don't know. It kind of sucks, but that's all right. I think that a lot of these people park generators are actually really, really ideal for things like this. You can make really cool custom-made parks and then still plop down those little people park generators, and they do the same kind of thing. They add leisure and all that stuff, so pretty cool in the end. Now, for these neighborhoods, like immediately next to the street, like the paved street, I wanted to have some fencing off going on, especially because we have these pathways kind of wandering around in the back there, and I didn't want to have the back of the homes just kind of like facing that immediately. So now we have some privacy for everybody living in these areas. Not that they have a whole lot of privacy anyway, because it's a giant, rally event going on in their front yard. But, well, we're trying our best, I guess, to make the best out of this area. I'd imagine it wouldn't be super fun to live in these homes whenever a rally event's going on. But I also would imagine these don't take very long to wrap up. So, whatever. I actually kind of wonder about that. I wonder if these ever take place in areas that are like private property, residential stuff. I mean, I guess they probably can't just like do that without their permission. I don't really know, honestly. Maybe as long as they stay on the street, it's like public property or something. I really don't know anything about these kinds of events, so I'm kind of curious now, honestly, because I do see like literally just rally tape like straight outside someone's house, and I mean, you have to think they probably ask permission. I'm not really sure, honestly, but anyway, for these homes out here, I'm doing some more like just regular picket fences, nothing too fancy, just kind of like fencing off their yards. Pretty, I think, common thing. I also tried to, if I could anyway, just use that surface painter dirt tool to connect these homes to the dirt roads around them, because that kind of seemed like a little more realistic. You wouldn't have just like floating driveways, so that made that all work out a bit better. Now we're on to the detailing of, I guess, the shoreline and all these little rocks around the shore. So using this copy-paste method again is super effective, and just kind of plopping down all the wild grass that would appear right on the top of these little hills, and also along the riverbed just a little bit, not too much because we already had quite a bit of it done. And like I said, we're not going to go much further than that anyway, because we're going to come back and do that with the next episode when we start detailing this whole valley anyway. But then a much more spaced out variant of this grass thing to kind of make it all look more natural and less like clusters of grass. So that's what that's all about. And then I had to do some of the stuff by hand as well because it was just kind of like in weird locations that were not really super ideal for pre-built stuff. So that's where that comes from. And then I tried to do little bits of foliage here and there. Now I feel like I've kind of learned from Copperville in that it's not always worth like going really in depth with like really filling areas out with these wild grass pieces and bushes and all that stuff, because it seems like that really tanks your frame rate and you hardly even see it. So I plopped little bits of wild grass inside those trees, but not a whole lot, just because, you know, it's enough that if you zoom in you can see it and it looks nice, but at the same time when you're zoomed out you're not going to get some frame rate problems and stuff. So that's kind of nice. Moving into just some palm trees here and there, and I think we're going to start focusing on the last bit of detail before we go into the all the people, which will be interesting. Hopefully, I'm pretty sure I cut out a good amount of that because it was quite a bit of work to get all those props placed in. But the last little bit that I wanted to do is I wanted to have a connection to the beach over here. Oop, I think I had a little freeze there. The connection to the beach over here from the well, not only the neighborhoods but also from the campsite area. So that's what's going on over here. Again, some of this like broken up path stuff going on with the surface painter tool. So I wanted to use like broken up dirt bits and some like fallen logs and some rocks and foliage and stuff around here just to kind of make it all look a little more natural, little less maintained, which I think I would imagine would be the case around campsites like this. So that's what we got here, a nice little junction, and then everyone can walk on down to the beach. And I'd imagine these beaches are much better than those like big commercial beaches over by Luxaway Bay or Copperville or whatever. Much nicer over here, I think. A lot less people and a little more personal and private. Also, I don't think I even put down any of those little beach assets over there. I felt like it'd be more of like a private beach, so quite a bit less traffic in those areas. Now I did miss a few things, so I went back and plopped down some details around the 7-Eleven, the gas station and stuff, but I did want to make sure that this whole town, not just the rally event, was wrapped up this episode, so that's what all the stuff's about. You know, plopping down these utility poles and getting some fencing in and all that stuff was definitely just like a part of detailing the entire town and not just the rally event here. So that's what that's all about. Now I did have kind of a hard time like shaping up this whole area like immediately at the entrance of this town. You know, it might see me do that little like camera route where I sort of wander my way into the town. I don't know, it was hard to make it all look nice and not overdone. I didn't want to put too many things in that area, you know, have it kind of simple, right? Just like some nice simple foliage and everything, but in the end I think it turned out pretty alright. So anyway, moving on to some of the actual track at this point now. So we are in the first curve here, and I tried to use a couple of these little like rows of foliage and things. I don't know, it just seemed kind of nice and clean to me, so I wanted to roll with that. We also have some fencing in different locations, kind of depending on where exactly we are on the street. And as we get away from the asphalt and main part of the town, we're going to get into some much more empty areas that are pretty much just like rally tape, and that's it. So this area is still pretty well populated, and there's lots of people around, so I figured we'd have some, you know, occasional little barricades with branding and advertising on them and stuff like that. And lots of people still, of course, just kind of sitting around that turn there and all along the inside and outside as well. Quite a few people in general just plopped. I wonder how many in total there are even here. It'd be kind of cool if I could see like a stat or something of all the people I plopped down, because there are quite a few, especially when we get to the actual event area, the big campsite. But anyway, I also had a little home growing in there. I think I just removed it because it was kind of like a weird spot for it, and plopped down some foliage here instead. Just a little bit though. And honestly, I'm not going to do a whole lot of work in that upper area, I don't think, getting closer to the top of the mountain anytime soon. I'll probably do quite a bit more on the actual like event area and surrounding town than I will on that. So there's a little like dead end thing, and finalizing some details just surrounding that the beach entrance location. But now we are finally on to the finishing touches of this event, and I gotta say, I think just plopping down all these people really did tie everything together and make it all look super nice. So I'm pretty happy with the final result of this one. It was kind of hard to get variation in the people, mostly because a lot of them look the same anyway. But I tried to just go like from prop type to prop type, so like you know, and just cover large areas with like one single prop type and switch to the next one, do the same thing. So I wasn't like clicking back and forth, but in the end it was just really hard to keep track of where I hadn't put one certain type of person, and I don't know, from there it was just kind of like all over the place. But I tried to make a lot of them sort of all grouping up in this area around the market and the food trucks and all that stuff, and then have like little clusters of them kind of walking around in the parking lot, maybe from their car or whatever. Also have some around the campfires and in these like campsite locations, especially around these big tents, which I think would have lots of people kind of all grouping up around them as well. And then I also tried to do like little lines outside of the porta potties. I'm sure we'll get to one of those in a minute here, but for the most part, it was just kind of like some even spacing of people, and you know, grouping them in locations that felt to me like they would have more people in them. So I don't know. I think in the end though, having this prop collection is super nice. I mean, you could use this for like pretty much anything. I've seen like maybe like one or two posts on the subreddit that are like big music events or things like that, but it's really pretty fun to make stuff like this. Honestly, it's kind of cool. It reminds me of like making like a big model of something, like a big model event or model train stations or whatever. It kind of feels like that, especially when you're just like placing these static people everywhere. I don't know, but kind of cool. And I think it's like a nice way to add personality to a town too. I mean, now instead of just having like a nice boring town over here, we've got like this big event going on the inside, and it's pretty cool, pretty lively, pretty awesome to look at, honestly. So anyway, that's pretty much the end of this episode. So I hope you all enjoyed this build. Obviously we only got the actual event and campsite done. We'll get the rest of the track done as we get to those areas on the map. But other than that, I hope you all enjoyed, and as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.